Hi, hello, Mika here from motioncraver.com with another how-to video. In this video, I'll be showing you how to add your own drawings to the Whiteboard Wow project when they're in a vector format. So before we jump in After Effects, I have a drawing opened in Adobe Illustrator. Now you may be using a different program to prepare your vectors, but the steps should be similar. So if you want to keep the look consistent with the rest of the project, you want to make sure that you have a white solid behind your drawing. So if I shift select these bottom two layers, you can see that I have two white solids. They're separated because they're prepared for animation. But the point is you want to have kind of like a white fill behind your entire outline. And as you can see over here, it is set to white. And then above those layers, I have my two color layers. One for the body and one for the head. And then if I just turn these off, everything else is the black outline. And the reason that you want to separate those is so that when you bring in the drawings, even if you're using it in black and white mode and you're not using color, you want to have that white fill so that you can't see through your drawings. And if you are using the color version, you want to have your color separated on a separate layer so that you can fade that in after the drawing is drawn on. So once you have your vector prepared, go ahead and jump into After Effects. I already have the project open. And I'm just going to import the Illustrator file by choosing File, Import, File. Select the Illustrator file and click Open. And you want to make sure it is set to Composition under Import Kind and click OK. And it may look like it's going to take a while here, but you can always click Stop once you see the image appear over here in the preview. And so I'm just going to double click on the comp that it made to open that up in the timeline. And I'm going to turn on the transparency grid here at the bottom of the composition window. And then I'm just going to select each of these layers and right click and choose Create Shapes from Vector. And again, I'm just going to do that for each layer. Select the layer, right click, choose Create Shapes from Vector. And you want to make sure that you start at the bottom of the layer order so that as the shape layers are created, they'll be created in the order that you want them to appear. Okay? And then I'm just going to go ahead and shift select all of the Illustrator layers and delete them. So now my vector is turned into shapes. And if you want to keep the colors consistent, go ahead and select those fill layers and you can go over to your effects and presets window. If it's not open, go up to window and choose effects and presets. Open up the animation presets. Find the Whiteboard Wow presets if you've already installed them. And go to the change color folder and choose make background color. And that's going to be for those bottom two layers that are acting as my white fill. And then I'm going to select both of my color layers and double click on fade in color. And as you can see, it goes away. And then I'm going to shift select all of my black outline colors and double click on make main color. Now if you can't see what this text says, you can always hover over the edge of the window and drag it for a little bit more room. Okay, so now if I scrub through, my drawing fades up and the colors are consistent, exactly what I want. So the next thing you would need to do is just click, hold, and drag it either into one of the pre-made comps or into one of the empty scenes. So I'll just show you how you would add it to one of the pre-made comps. Double click to open it up and scrub in the timeline to find the comp that you want to add it to. I'm going to add it to this one. You could also just go over to scenes and find it that way. But I'm just going to double click to open that up in the timeline. And then click, hold, and drag the comp with my drawing in it into the timeline. And I'm going to place it above the John arms folded layer because that's the drawing that I want to replace in this comp. And I'm just going to position it so that it's in a similar position, and then turn off the visibility of the John arms folded layer. And if I scrub through, I can see that my drawing's a little bit too tall, so I'm going to select that comp again and move it down a bit. And now the hand draws on the layer, and the color fades in a little too soon. So I'm going to go to the point where I want the color to fade in, which is about right there. I want it to match the background. I'm just going to press Control and the forward arrow key to go forward frame by frame. And that's the point that I want the color to start to fade in. And then I'm going to go back over to my effects and presets and open up the change timing and double click on delay color reveal. Okay, and that's going to make it so that my drawing doesn't fade on until after the second keyframe, which is a little bit too late. I want to go ahead and move this back to about right there. Back a little bit further. And just adjust these keyframes until you get the fade in exactly where you want it. Okay, so now the drawing draws on, background comes in, and everything fades up nicely. Now a good rule of thumb would be to just go to the beginning of the drawing layer and then double click on the delay color reveal, because it will add the effect wherever the placeholder is positioned. And if you wanted to add the drawing to an empty scene, you could just double click to open up an empty scene in the timeline, click, hold, and drag your drawing comp. And if you wanted to reveal it with a writing hand, you could just go to the writing hands folder. I'm going to choose a black one, and I'm going to go with 1/4. Click, hold, and drag and position it on top of the layer. And go to the beginning of the timeline and just move this until the layer is no longer visible. And the hand draws on the new drawing. So that is how you would add your own vector drawing to the Whiteboard Wow project. Thanks for watching and take care.